Hello guys, welcome to this exciting lesson in biology where we are going to be looking at the genetics. This lesson is an introduction to genetics. Alright, so I'm excited, I'm fired up to teach this lesson because it's a very interesting topic in biology which talks about the genetics. Alright, so without wasting much of your time, let's go straight into the lesson. Alright, so what is genetics? We are saying genetics is the study of inheritance of genetic material from generation to generation. Alright, so the study of inheritance of genetic material from generation to generation is what is referred to as genetics. Alright, or we can say inheritance is the transmission of genetic information from generation to generation. Alright, so when you inherit, meaning you receive something from another person that lived before you. Alright, that's what it means to inherit. Now when we talk of genetics, we are talking of inheriting genetic materials. So what are these genetic materials? This is information which programs how a person looks like in terms of maybe eye color, maybe a hair color, maybe skin color, how tall you are going to be, the way you smile, the mouth shape, the nose shape. That information which makes a human being to be the way they appear is what we call genetic information, and it is called genetic information from the word genes because it is characterized or prescribed by genetic information called genes, which is found in the nucleus of the cell on the chromosomes. All right, so inheritance, we are saying, is the transmission of genetic information from generation to generation. All right, so we are saying offspring inherit characteristics from their parents. So you see, children when they are born, mostly they have to appear like their parents. All right, in most cases, if they don't appear like their father, but in most cases they have to appear like their mother. There are certain things that they may have on their appearance that will look like their mother or their father. All right, so that kind of inheriting that information, the study of inheriting how children actually acquire those characteristics, how do they inherit those characteristics, that study is what we call genetics. All right, so that's what we call genetics. Yes, what is your problem? Okay, yeah, very good. So you can go to mommy. Very good. All right, so that's what we are saying. So inheritance of characteristics from parents is what is known as genetics, or is what is found in the study of genetics. All right, so let's look at these beautiful families here. We have a mother and a daughter. When you look at their appearance, actually this girl here resembles the mother, and the reason why she resembles the mother is that she has inherited the genetical makeup of the mother. It's the same genetical makeup of her in her cells. What the mother is in the cells about the mouth, the eye is what also is in her cells about the mouth, the nose, and everything, including this other cute family as well here. When you look at these two, the eyes look the same, the mouth structure, the nose, and the smile looks similar because the daughter has inherited this characteristic from the mother, and this information actually is stored in the nucleus of the cell. All right, so the study of how inheritance happens, how characteristics are acquired from one generation to another, is what we call now genetics. All right, so now let's look at the terms used in genetics. So we are going to look at the terms used in genetics because there are certain terms that are used in genetics which, when you don't understand them, then you are not going to know what genetics is. You find this topic of genetics to be quite complicating if you don't understand these terms. However, I'm going to labor very much to explain these terms so that you understand what genetics is. All right, so we are saying the following are the terms used in the study of genetics. And number one, we need to look at the chromosomes. Number two, genes. Number three, alleles. Then number four, dominant allele. Then number three, recessive allele. Then we have also to look at the genotype and the phenotype. All right, so these terms come often in the study of genetics, and failure to understand them is a failure to understand what genetics is. So now let's look at what chromosomes are. All right, so what is a chromosome? We are saying a chromosome is a thread of DNA made up of a string of genes. So a chromosome is a thread of DNA made up of a string of genes. So at this point, just understand that a chromosome is a thread of DNA, just like a thread. You know what a thread is? It contains something coiled, the thread, something like that. So it's just a thread of DNA. That's what a chromosome is, made up of a string of genes. All right, so what is DNA? DNA just stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. That's what DNA is, deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, so again we are saying the chromosome exists in pairs such that each member of the pair has a characteristic length and shape similar to its partner. So these chromosomes we are talking about exist in pairs such that each member of the pair has a characteristic length and shape similar to its neighbor. So you want to understand this information right now. Let me bring a diagram here that will help you to understand. So this is a cell. All right, inside the cell we find the nucleus. Inside the nucleus we find these small structures called the chromosome. So when this one is zoomed here, this is a chromosome here, and this chromosome here, when it is further zoomed, one area of it is further zoomed in, we see that it contains these strands or thread. So these are like a thread of DNA. So these threads are what we call now DNA. That's why we said a chromosome is a thread of DNA. So they are thread inside a chromosome of DNA and made up of a string of genes. So there are genes inside there again in this DNA thread. There are also genes in it. All right, and then when we say chromosomes exist in pairs such that each member of the pair has a characteristic length and shape similar to its partner. So these are pairs. As you can see, we have this pair, or we have this pair here and another pair here. Their lengths are just similar. The way this one appears is the same as this one. Also here we have this one and this one. So this one is one chromosome and this one is one chromosome, and they make a pair. Okay, so let's look at this one now here so that we understand some of the parts of a chromosome. So this central part here is called the centromere. Then one strand of the chromosome here is called chromatid, and this section of a chromatid here are what we call gene. For example, here we are saying we have a gene for hair color, just for example. So that's what actually a chromosome is here. I hope you are getting something. If you are getting something, please give this video a like and let me know in the comment section. All right, so let's move a bit now and see what happens next. All right, so what we are saying now here is that in human, all right, in human, each cell normally contains 23 pairs of chromosomes for a total of 46 chromosomes. So in humans, like, you know, when we study the introduction to biology, we look at the cells. So we are saying human beings or living things contains also cells. Now, in human being, in each cell, there are 23 pairs of chromosome. And then if there are 23 pairs of chromosome, since a chromosome contains two, a pair of chromosome contains two chromosomes, then the total number of chromosomes now becomes 46, just by saying 23 times 2 gives you 46 chromosomes. Okay, so now in each individual, each human being contains 46 chromosomes in total, and then the pairs of chromosomes that are found in a human being is actually 23 pairs of chromosome. All right, then we are saying that 22 of these pairs called autosomes look the same in both males and females. The 23rd pair, the sex chromosomes, differ between males and the females. So we have 23 pairs of chromosomes in a human being. Now we are saying 22 of these pairs, called autosomes, look the same in both males and the females. So in short, females have got 22 pairs of chromosomes that are just the same as the 22 pairs of chromosomes found in the male. But we are saying the 23rd pair, which is called the sex chromosome, differ between males and the females. So when you count 1 up to 22, they'll be the same in female and male. But as you go to the 23 chromosome, in a male it will be different from that of female, and that one is a chromosome for sex, which differs from the male and the female. That's why reproductive organs for female, they are different from the reproductive organs for the male, because of that 23rd chromosome, because it differs. All right, so then we are saying that females have 2 copies of the X chromosome, while males have 1 X and 1 Y chromosome. In other words, here what is being communicated here is this. So what is being communicated is that if in female, if these are the female, so the female will have the X chromosome, that pair, as their chromosome, the 23rd one. But for the male, the 23rd chromosome is going to be X and Y. So you have seen. So that's why we are saying females have 2 copies of the X chromosome. So they have 2 copies XX, while males have 1 X and 1 Y chromosome. So male 1 X and 1 chromosome. So that 23rd in female it is XX, but in male it is XY chromosome. Hence the reproductive organs are different, and the way the reproductive system of females and that of the male, the way they operate differently because of this chromosome here. All right, so let's move a bit here, and then let's look at now these chromosomes we are talking about, the 23 pairs of chromosome. Let's look at this diagram here. So when you look at this diagram here, it has now given us the 23 pairs of chromosomes. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you see, this is a pair of chromosome. Okay, so we have this one here, the first pair, the second pair, the third pair, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, then 23rd, this one, where now it differs. You see the X is longer than the Y, but these are just similar. The way these appears in male and female, they are just the same. We have males and females, we have just these, all of us we have these, but when we come to these, in female they'll have XX, in male we'll have XY. So this one here is just for the male given, and for the female it will be XX. So this is how the chromosomes are in human beings, and these are the ones that determine characteristics, the way your fingers appear, your nails appear, your hair, the eye, the nose, the legs, the way they appear, they are controlled by these chromosomes here. Okay, so these are the ones. Only 23 pairs of chromosomes are able to determine the way a human being appears in totality. All right, so now you understand what chromosomes are. Let's look at the genes. Okay, so what is a gene? We are saying a gene is a segment of the DNA that determines one particular characteristic. So a gene is a segment of the DNA that determines one particular characteristic. All right, so let's look at a pair of chromosome here. So we have a pair of chromosome here, and it has this section here. So these section or segments here are what we call genes. So this one, we have this one, this segment, this segment, this segment. Moving along with these are what we call genes. So these segments are what we call genes. All right. And when you look at these chromatids here on which these genes are, we will find that some of the genes come from the father and some of the genes come from the mother. That's what you should understand. And these strand here, or the chromatid here, actually they actually are made in a helix like this one. It's a helix a structure like this one where they twist each other, not straight in a simple way that I've made them here like this, but in most books they'll simplify them like this. Yes, you'll find them appearing like this, but in actuality it's like a strand, that a helix, that's what it is called, this kind of a structure where they coil like that with genes along the strand or the coil or the helix structure. All right, so we are saying, e.g., the segment of DNA determining the inheritance and expression of eye color is called the gene for eye color. So when we come back to here where we are saying a gene is a segment of the DNA or chromosome that determines one particular characteristic. So a gene will just determine one particular characteristic. There will be a gene that determines that your color of eyes should be brown or blue. There will be a gene that will determine the color of your hair, to say, okay, your color of your hair should be brown or black. So you see, that's why we are saying a gene is a segment of a DNA that determines one particular characteristic. So there are so many genes, but each gene will only determine one characteristic. That is it. So that's why we are saying, like this one here will have its own characteristic that it will determine this one its own, this one its own, this one its own. You won't find that there's one gene determining the characteristics of how the eye color appears, how the hair color appears, the skin color appears. No, there's only one gene for eye color, one gene for skin color, one gene for hair color, and other characteristics like that of a human being. So that's what it is. So a gene is a segment of the DNA that determines one particular characteristics, and we are saying, e.g., the segment of DNA determining the inheritance and expression of eye color is called the gene for eye color. So we can have a segment or gene that can just be there to determine the expression of the eye color, and that segment or gene we can call it gene for eye color. All right. So now what we are saying, for example, we have this segment here. This segment can be there for eye color. Then we can have this segment on both chromatid here. This one can be for skin color. Then this one can be for hair color. And then this one can be, for instance, for nail type, the nail you have. So each is like that. Okay. So, and then we are saying, note that some characteristics are controlled by more than one gene. This is called the polygenic inheritance. So at your level, we are not going to discuss what this polygenic inheritance is. All right. So that is what we should actually know about what gene are. So a gene is a segment of the DNA that determines one particular characteristic, and these are the segments we are talking about. And then the way they occur in pairs like this, we are going to talk about this very soon when we talk about the alleles. All right. So what we are saying here is that generally each gene controls the synthesis of one polypeptide molecule. So the way genes actually determine the way you appear is by producing proteins that are made in a way that if proteins they join in a certain way, then they'll be able to determine eye color. When they join in another way, then they will determine skin color. When they join in another format, they determine eye color or hair color. So that's why we are saying generally each gene controls the synthesis of one polypeptide molecule. So a polypeptide molecule is actually a protein molecule. All right. So we are done with the genes. Then let's talk about now alleles. Okay, alleles. So what are alleles? So we are saying alleles are a pair of a gene that controls the same trait. A pair of a gene. Let's bring this diagram here. Okay, so we have these pairs of gene. So we have this and this controlling one trait. Which trait are they controlling? Eye color. So alleles are a pair of a gene that controls the same trait. So these pairs like this, we call them alleles. Okay, so we have this allele here, and this one pair also is an allele. This another pair is an allele. This another pair is an allele. This one also is an allele. Okay, so that's what alleles are. So alleles are a pair of a gene that controls the same trait. So we have a pair here containing two genes controlling what? Eye color. We have a pair of genes here, okay, or allele containing two genes controlling skin color. We have got a pair of alleles here, made of two genes controlling the same hair color. Okay, we have also a pair of alleles here made of two genes. These two genes, they are controlling the same trait or characteristic, which is type. Okay, so words like trait, the word trait actually just simply means the way an individual looks. It's the same word characteristic, so we exchange the word characteristic for trait in most cases. So when you hear me mentioning trait, or in any book mentioning trait, then they just mean characteristic. Eye color is a trait, skin color is just a trait, hair color is a trait, nail type is a trait. Okay, so all these traits, some of them are inherited from parent. They're inherited from parents, not some of them. So they are inherited from parents. Okay, so we are saying each organism inherits one allele from the mother and one allele from the father during sexual reproduction. So during sexual reproduction, when there's a fertilization happening in the uterus, then there's a fusion between the ova and the sperm, and then this sperm brings another allele for hair color, and then the ova also from the mother brings an allele for hair color. So these, they come together. That's why you are seeing the two here. One of them could come from the mother, another one from the father, alleles controlling the eye color. Okay, so this is why we are saying each organism inherits one allele from the mother and one allele from the father during sexual reproduction. And then we are saying that each body cell of an organism contains two alleles for each trait. So in your cells, in my cells, there are two alleles that are controlling the same trait. So for my eye color, there are two alleles controlling that. One is from my father, another one is from my mother. All right, so that's what you should do know. And we are going to look at what we call dominance recessive very shortly. All right, so let's push this one up a bit here and then look at another alternative definition of an allele. So here I also say an allele is also defined as an alternative form of a gene. So when we say an alternative form of a gene, what I just mean is that if you have this gene for eye color, another alternative is this one. So these alternatives which are there for the same eye color is what we call allele. So an allele is also defined as an alternative form of a given gene. So we have a gene for eye color. So there are two alternatives, one from the father, one from the mother. All right, so I have decided to give this definition because in multiple choice, if this definition is given as the definition for an allele and then you don't know it, then you might say you just don't know. Well, you actually have to know. So here we are saying each organism, all right, I've already mentioned this one. So each body cell of an organism contains two alleles for each trait. Yes, I've already mentioned it. So we are saying, for example, there are two alternative forms of a gene for eye color. There are two alternative forms of a gene for eye color. One allele produces brown eyes and one allele produces blue eyes. So the way human beings exist is either you have blue or brown eyes. Yeah, that is what is common. Let's see if there's what we call polygenic alleles. All right. Otherwise, we have two alleles. One will control brown color, and one produces blue eyes. So we are saying, for example, there are two alternative forms of a gene for eye color. One allele produces brown eyes, and one allele produces blue eyes. Okay. So we are saying an alternative allele which is expressed in the trait of an organism is called a dominant allele. So, for instance, here we have two alleles. Let's say two alleles, one from the father, another one from the mother. Let's say the mother has got a brown eyes and then the father has got a blue eyes. So, these two, during fertilization, the mother will bring brown eyes, the father will bring blue eyes. But in the child will not have a mixture of blue or a mixture of blue and brown. Either the child will have blue eyes or browny eyes. Now, the gene that is going to be found in the child, let's say the child when is born, the eyes are blue. Then that gene which produces blue color, since it has also appeared in the child, then that gene in the child is going to be said to be dominant gene. That's what we are saying here. An alternative allele which is expressed in the trait of an organism is called a dominant allele. So that gene, it has produced the color of the eye, and you are able to see that. Then that allele that has determined that color is said to be a dominant allele. All right. So let's push this one up here. We are also saying that an alternative allele which is not expressed in the trait of an organism is called a recessive allele. So for instance, if the child has become with blue eyes while the mother had brown, and then the child has blue, meaning the child has also brown allele in their body because the child inherited both, but the one that has only determined her color or his color is the blue. So meaning the other one which is there, which is not determining the color, it's also there, but it is now called recessive. Okay, it is now a recessive allele, meaning it has not appeared, but it is still there. Okay, so that's what it is. Then we are saying that a dominant allele is represented by a capital letter. So during crossing, when we start crossing to determine what characteristics will the child be, if a father with brown eyes, a mother with blue eyes, when they met, what will be the color of their offspring. When we start crossing genetic diagram, we use letters to represent those alleles. And then we are saying a dominant allele is represented by a capital letter, while a recessive allele is represented by a small letter. All right, so that's what you should do. No, so let's say here that this child here, the gene, we have these alleles for eye color. So we have father has blue, then mother has a brown allele. Now let's say now these two have met. So in this child, let's say the child has got now blue eyes. So if the child has got a blue eye, it means this allele for blue from the father is dominant, while this allele for brown from the mother is recessive. And in terms of representing this allele for blue, we will use a letter capital B, because blue now is what is determining the eye color of this individual. Then B, which is not able to determine, or which is not expressed in the eye color, will be represented by a small letter B, this brown here, which means that when it is small letter, then you must know that it is a recessive gene. When it is a capital letter, you should know that it is a dominant gene and it has been expressed in the appearance of the organism. All right, so then here we are saying again here that now the allele for blue, like here in this case, we are saying the allele for blue eyes is said to be dominant. Okay, to the allele for brown eyes. Although the allele for brown eyes is present in all the child's cells, it is not expressed. It is said to be recessive to blue. So this allele can be there in the child's cells in the body, but since it has not been expressed in the eyes, since it is an allele for eye color, since it has not been expressed, then we can say it is recessive to blue. And then blue, we can say blue is dominant to brown. Okay, so now we are done with what alleles are and what they do. Now let's go to what we call genotype. Okay, so what is genotype? So we are saying genotype is genetic makeup of an organism. Okay, so genotype is genetic makeup of an organism. So like the way we just talked about it, if the allele for the color of eyes are capital B and small letter b, then capital B and small letter b is the genetical makeup of an organism in terms of the eye color. So that's what we call genotype. So genotype is genetic makeup of an organism, or we are saying this is the combination of alleles an organism has for a given characteristic. So for the eye color, we have seen in the previous example, for the eye color we have two alleles, one dominant, another one recessive. So that is now what we are going to call the genetic makeup of that child in terms of eye color. So that is what we call genotype. All right, so the genetic composition of an organism for a particular characteristic also is what we call genotype. So the genetic composition of an organism for a particular characteristic. So let's say our famous diagram here, where now we have this. So the color of the eye being blue. So if we were to report the genotype of this organism or this individual in terms of eye color, we are going to say that the genotype for eye color is B, capital B, small letter b. So this is the genotype of this individual. So this is the genetical makeup that determines the eye color, capital B, small letter b. So small letter capital B is for blue because the eye color is blue. Okay, so now we are done with the genotype. Let's go to phenotype. So what is phenotype? So we are saying phenotype is the outward expression of the genotype in the form of physical characteristics of an organism. So now we are saying the outward appearance now, like the way we saw in this individual, the color of the eyes are blue. So that appearance of the color of the eyes blue is now what we are calling phenotype. Okay, so we are saying an observable characteristic of an organism. So phenotype is also an observable characteristic of an organism. What you are able to see is what we call phenotype. So if they ask you what is your phenotype in terms of your skin color, if your skin color is black, you say I'm black. If you look brown skin, you are a brown skinned person, then you say it's brown skin. So what is your phenotype for your skin? My skin is brown. Okay, if they say what is the genotype for your skin, it's difficult to give because they are asking about the genes inside there that are determining the color of the skin. That's the difference. I hope you are getting the point here. So here we are saying it also refers to a trait that can be seen. So all these definitions are just there to make you understand what phenotype is. So it also refers to a trait that can be seen. All right, and it depends on the genotype of the organism. So what causes the phenotype or the appearance, the way you appear, is actually the genetic makeup or the genotype. Okay, so then here we are saying the phenotype for eye color is blue, for instance, in this living organism. If they say, what is the phenotype for the eye color? You say the phenotype for eye color is blue, meaning the eye colors, the color of the eyes, the way they appear to be blue. Okay, so now let's move a bit here. So we are saying if the genotype of an organism consists of the same type of allele, for example, both alleles are recessive or dominant, then the genotype is said to be homozygous. So this is what they mean here. So what we are saying here is this: if the genotype of an organism consists of the same type of allele, so like the genotype blue, for instance, here we have blue eye, but when we go inside to see the genetic makeup that has caused the blue, we find that these alleles, two alleles for eye color, they are the same, BB. Okay, they are both dominant from both parents. The parent of the father is blue, the mother is blue, and those have come to appear in the child like that. Okay, BB, the allele for the same characteristics are the same. If the genotype of an organism consists of the same type of allele, so we have the same type of allele, BB capital. For example, both alleles are recessive or dominant. In this case, here we have both alleles are dominant here. Or in this case here, where we have brown eyes, we have small letter b, small letter p here again. So in this case again, we have the same allele which are recessive again. Then the genotype is said to be homozygous. So this is homozygous, meaning same. Homozygous just means the same. So you have same genotype here, or equally here there's same genotype. Okay, so that's what it means when you hear genotype is homozygous. It means the alleles are the same for a particular characteristic. So blue eye, they have the same BB, then or which is dominant, or brown eye, they have BB, which is recessive. And then we are saying organisms which are homozygous are called homozygotes or pure breeds. Okay, so these organisms which will have pure or same genotype or genetic makeup or same alleles for the same gene or for the same trait, they are said to be homozygotes or pure breeds. Okay, they are pure breeds. So this one can be said to be pure breed, meaning they carry the same genetic makeup from the father and mother for the eye color, or equally this one they carry the same genetic makeup for the eye color from the mother. Here it's just a pure recessive, here it's just pure dominant. Okay, so then we are going to say that an organism is said to be homozygous for a given trait when it contains two identical alleles for that trait. So an organism is said to be homozygous for a given trait when it contains two identical alleles for that trait. So this is the same explanation that we are adding to make you understand even more by saying an organism is said to be homozygous for a given trait when it contains two identical alleles for that trait. So two identical. So now let's move a bit here and look at another example here. So we are saying if the genotype of an organism consists of the different types of allele, for example recessive and dominant allele, then the genotype is said to be heterozygous. So let's look at this. So for the brown eye, we have brown and blue, and brown and I mean blue and brown, and blue is dominant. Now since the genotype consists of different alleles, we have the dominant and the recessive. So these alleles are not the same, although they are controlling the same trait, but they are not the same in that this one is dominant, this one is recessive. And such a genotype in which an organism consists of different types of alleles, such genotype is said to be homozygous. That's what you should know. It is said to be homozygous. All right. Then we are saying organisms which are heterozygous are called heterozygotes or hybrids. So these are hybrids. So when you hear the word hybrid, you are breeding, you want hybrid, what it means, you get two different uh, uh, organisms, maybe of the same species, but they have got different genetic makeup. Then you breed them so that you gain some genes from this organism and other from here, so that you have different genes or alleles in that new organism that will be formed. That organism that will be formed with a um, different genotype for the same trait, that organism is going to be said to be a hybrid organism. So shouldn't be scared about this word hybrid. That's what it all means in simple terms. So organisms which are heterozygous are called heterozygotes or hybrids. All right, guys, we have come to the end of this biology lesson, introduction to biology. So if you enjoyed this lesson, if you learned something in this lesson, please give it a like and let me know in the comment section. And guys, this lesson is here to introduce to you the beginning of online tuitions for biology. So the number is on the screen for those that want to join my online tuitions for biology, where you will learn these other lessons that are coming in genetics, and then we'll look at locomotion, and then we'll look at reproduction, then the food chain, the food web, and all those things which are related to grade 12 work. You have to hit me on the number on the screen, you WhatsApp me or you call me. And then the other thing is the fee is 60 kwacha only, and you only come to me when you have got the money. And the reason is that I do take time to write this, to do researches, to make sure that the information I'm giving is the right one. Now, if people that do not have cash at hand comes to me and hit me with questions, then I waste time just responding to them like that. Then I may end up not progress in the lessons. So if you have got cash, just hit me. You say, sir, I have cash, can I deposit so that I join your online tuition? Then that will be good for both of us, so that we progress very quickly. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching up to this time. See you in the next lessons or in my online lessons. As for now, bye and please, peace.